Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. I, of course, with Originator Success here, the Daily Mortgage Rate Update, the only place on the web where you get to join me live on Facebook and YouTube each and every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, as we talk about what's going on with rates and pricing in the mortgage market. If you're here live, say good morning. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget to give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. And if you'd like, you can jump ahead into the good stuff if you want. So either way, if you're here live or on the replay, don't forget to go ahead and smash that like button. Tag in a hello friend, share us in a group. Let's go ahead and remind you that you can sign up for our free email lock advice. Get an email to your inbox each and every weekday morning, www.ratelockedvice.com. You can sign up for our text alerts at www.ratetextalerts.com. That's right. We send out an alert every morning and a wrap-up alert in the afternoon, and alerts if we see enough movement that reprice risk, either good or bad, is there. So a lot of people don't necessarily want to see all the charts and graphs, but just want to be notified when something's going to happen, and don't want to spend a lot of money to do so. It's $7 a month. Check them out. RateTextAlerts.com, or use a cool QR code. Last but not least, actually, no, we're going to do one more after this. But if you want a reminder that I'm going live each morning, like I sent out this morning, you get that at hmmr.io/reminder. And now, last but not least, check us out at originatorssuccess.com. Find out how we can help you get loans from Google and social media. So all of that said, if you're here this morning, say good morning so I could say hi to you. Let's say hi to the live folks, and we're going to do our question of the day, and we'll get to the good stuff. So let's start off here with the first one we hit on this morning. It was Mr. Tim Klyla. Good morning, Mr. Tim Klyla. Great to see you here, sir. We got Allison Foy and Brandy Brickler. Good morning, Megan Lindberg. Ron Siegel. Good morning, sir. He said today is National Sugar Cookie Day. I'll tell you, with so many other opportunities, we should make new national days, because this one just seems like a rehash. But nice sugar cookie. Doug Dickinson, good morning. Cash Needs, great to see you here. How you doing, Cash? Mike Tebow, great to have you here, sir. There you go. National Sign Up for Hammer Alerts Day. I like that one, Ron. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you and appreciate your support and you spreading the word for us. Greta, good morning. Bill Stevens, great to have you here, my friend. Hope you are doing well. All right. So now that we've said hi to everyone that's on so far that said good morning, let's go ahead. Question of the day. Are you a sports lover or a movie buff, or both? You can be both, right? Are you a sports lover or a movie buff? And if you are, what sports or what kind of movies? I don't watch a lot of live sports anymore. Just don't prioritize it. I probably should, but so many hobbies, so many different things to do in the world. I don't tend to watch a lot of live sports. I do enjoy watching movies, so I'm going to go with movies. And I don't like horror movies. Love me some man action movies, brainless, John Wick style. Give me The Matrix. Give me John Wick. I'll go with any kind of Keanu movie like that. So that is the question of the day. Make sure you go ahead and answer that for me in the comments, and we'll circle back on that, and we'll talk about your answers. So question of the day, are you a sports lover or a movie buff? And while we do that, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the technicals, see what we got going on this morning. First things first, mortgage-backed securities are up about 4 basis points on the day. What does that mean? It means rate sheets are basically going to be unchanged. It's very unlikely that we see anything really happen today. There's very much not any movement from yesterday. So I have 5-day chart up. Remember, this is going to be weird because of the holiday. You can see right here, this was the Wednesday before, because you see how it just a straight line because markets closed at 2 p.m. So this was Wednesday of last week. So Tuesday we were down. Wednesday it improved. Friday after the jobs data, here is the jobs data boost that we got right here. You can see we got a nice little boost after the jobs data, and things have kind of improved. We had some overnight trading losses heading into Monday, and they bounced back when markets opened yesterday. This was Monday here, and today we're really basically in the exact same spot, and that's why rate sheets are going to be basically unchanged. Reprice risk on the day is low. Traders really seem comfortable with where bonds are at right now, both for mortgage-backed securities, as you can see right here, as well as the 10-year treasury yield, just staying right around that 4.30 area. So we've got 4.28, 4.28. This morning we're at 4.29. really just running flat here and not a lot of movement on that. Rates are very likely to hold, and I think they're going to improve later this week. Now, today we've got Powell and his testimony in front of Congress. He's going to be testifying and answering questions. He's going to start out today with the Senate Banking Committee, and then tomorrow he'll be in front of the House Financial Services Committee. So today will be the Senate. Generally, today is the only day that really tends to have any potential to move markets, because tomorrow he's going to be repeating himself just for a different audience, right? So we're not going to see anything there. I may be overly optimistic. I think we're going to see the inflation data later this week. Thursday, we get the CPI, consumer inflation data. Friday, we get the PPI, wholesale inflation data. I think we're going to see that inflation data come in either as expected or maybe even showing a little more disinflation. Now, remember, disinflation means that we still have inflation. It's just moving in a lower direction. Deflation is when we actually see inflation moving backwards and actually negative inflation, the price of goods moving down. We're not going to see deflation. Disinflation would be good, though, if we see things moving lower. If we see inflation cooling, I don't think we're going to see a huge move on that. So Cash, he knows how it goes, though. Cash said he locked 2 loans yesterday. And whenever you lock loans, you know that things are going to improve. That's always how it happens, right? But when it comes to locking and floating, my advice, anything that's less than 15 days out, you can cautiously float. And the caveat here is absolutely look to lock them. Like, Cash, when do those loans close that you locked up yesterday? Just curious, when do those loans close? Let me know in the comments. So, for me, I'm looking right, like we've got basically today's the 9th. So if you got anything closing between now and maybe say the 23rd, well, what's going to happen? We're going to get that inflation data, and that's kind of about it. We're going to get a few economic reports that will cause a little bit of moves, but it's not likely that we see things move that much lower. Even if the inflation data does come in helping us, we're not going to see rates drop significantly. They're going to go down 1/8 of a point. I mean, if we saw a huge miss in inflation, it could be a 1/4 point, but that's really on the outskirts. Not a lot of likelihood of that, right? So when you look at it, yeah, they're closing in 2 weeks, dude. I would absolutely locking them just makes sense, because what happens if this inflation data comes in even just a little bit outside of the norm? And remember what happened a few months ago. We had inflation data. If you brought it out 2 and 3 decimal places, it would have been fine. But because it rounds up, well, it hurt. And you really can't afford that for loans that are closing near term. But loans that have time that don't close until late in July or August, I would absolutely be floating them. We want to see what happens with this July data. Keep an eye on things. I've been popping this up to see if we get any kind of the prepared remarks get posted on the Fed Reserve site, but they have not yet been posted. Minutes from the Open Market Committee. Yeah, no, those are old. So I was looking to see if we were getting testimony from Powell in front of the, but no, not yet. So nope, no comments from Powell yet. So anyway, what we're talking about is that, take a look here. Right now, markets are currently pricing in the idea that we're going to see 2 Fed rate cuts this year, right? So we're at 5.25. They're looking to get to 4.75. It's about a 50% expectation there. There's about a 25% expectation that we could even see 3. So between the two, we have an expectation of 75% that we're going to see at least 2 rate cuts this year. We could see the idea of 3, but I don't think this is going to grow. I think that markets are kind of betting on this, but this would require us to see a September, a November, and a December rate cut. We'd have to see some real signs of inflation moving lower and see the jobs market, the labor market really, really tank. But the first expectation right now, if we look at July, 95% expect that we're going to be exactly the same at the end of the month as where we're at right now. The next Fed meeting is July 31st. On the September 18th, we will have the first expected Fed rate cut. 71% expect we're going to see a rate cut in September. Then November, there's that expectation that we could see a second cut, and it's actually gaining some momentum. If we go ahead and compare here, you'll see that a month ago, there was almost no expectation of that. And then, a week ago, it was 26%, and then it's been up to about 33, 35%. So it has moved up quite a bit with expectations of more rate cuts. And depending on what Powell were to say today in his comments, if he opens the door and says, hey, we're waiting to see more data, but if that data comes in, et cetera, that's going to really kind of help things here. Other stuff, though, I mean, really, there's really not much else that's going on. Tomorrow we'll get a 10-year Treasury auction. But really it's the other stuff. By the way, overseas, I wanted to kind of bring this one up to you. Let me pop this here. Let you look at my pretty face. Let's look at the headlines for a minute. Make sure you answer the question of the day, by the way, and we'll go through your answers in a little while. Are you a sports or a movie buff, and which kind? So right now, France, I don't talk a lot about overseas stuff, but there was a lot going on. You can read it on different news sources about which party basically was going to have some control. I'm not really overly familiar with how the French government works, and at the end of the day, I honestly don't care. Here's the part, though, that does have an effect on us, right? France now has to face bond market risk it prefers to ignore. Yield premium may be in the new higher range. So what this means is that they're concerned. You're going to see concern about bonds, over French bonds, and how they're being traded and what they're being invested on. Same problem over here in China. Chinese bond traders fear dagger to the heart as yields vanish. And they're not talking about yields on U.S. bonds. They're talking about yields on Chinese bonds. The reason I'm kind of pointing this out to you is this stuff is kind of that outskirts thing that does push more money into U.S. treasuries. And that's going to help us to see rates hold steady or possibly improve from here. So right now we're at 7.01 on using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point. That was exactly, in the same range we were at the end of June. We saw things bump up higher. People kind of were like, "Oh my goodness, I listened to Hammer." And then, let's look at the progression here. And this is what I kind of laugh, right? So 7.01, 621. That was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, then it creeped a little bit higher, and then it crept back down, and within 2 weeks we're back down. That's why when I do these lock windows, I talk about if it's closing within 2 weeks, because you see these cycles. But if it's closing in 15 to 30 and 30 plus days, it didn't matter that we saw rates go up a little bit and then rates come back down, because you're floating through that. So just because they move higher, you don't have to panic. I've talked about this before. I just see people on Facebook and they're just so only looking at the 5 minutes in front of their face kind of a thing. And you got to look beyond that. What I'm looking at now is, how does this inflation data come in? How's it going to affect the PCE inflation data? And what are we going to get at the Fed meeting at the end of the month? Those are the next big events. That's what we're waiting to see, and what improves things from there. So keep that going on. Cash said he loves the windows. It's very helpful. That is awesome, Cash. And that's why, like yesterday, perfect scenario, dude. I'm looking at your comments here. You said it was a tight DTI, so you can't risk it. And that's exactly why, I talk about the things that I talk about and what's going on with that. Like, if you've got something, why is this not showing for me? There we go. All right. So tight DTI, so you couldn't risk those loans. Absolutely. And that's what, if they close in 2 weeks and they have a tight DTI, that's what cautiously floating means, right? So Ron Siegel said, the police officers behind you in the freeway, you slow down, but you're not going backwards. Deceleration is like disinflation. This is from the late, great Steve Harney. Good morning, John Warner, Tom Dedmore. Mike said, I think the comments will come out an hour before he speaks. Well, he starts speaking at 10, so they did not come out before then. There was a rumor they'd come out at 8:30. They don't actually have a required time for those comments to come out. So it depends. And the fact that they're not releasing them out early kind of has me scratching my head, because they usually are out pretty early. Let's take a look and see on the question of the day. What did you guys like? What was your answer on sports and football? Mike said, when am I coming to Michigan? Mike, I am leaving on Thursday. I'll be there on Friday. I'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm coming home on Monday. I'm staying down in South Michigan and visiting family. So Cash is a basketball, football fan, as well as movies. Brandy is sports and college football. I might look at college football more this season. I've never been a big college football follower, but I was talking to Frazier about it. We were talking about it. Bill Stevens is definitely a movie buff and spelled it out with all kinds of cool emojis. TNA movies. Is that for thrills and action? Thrills and action movies. I got you, Siegel. I got you. Good morning, James Mahan. Great to have you. Rob Stewart, Max Franks. Good to see you, Max. Amy Santiago. Let's see. Looking at some of your other comments here. Question of the day, Tom Demmer said he is both love North Carolina State football, basketball, and Hurricanes hockey. I was reading on The Athletic, Tom, about how the Hurricanes have really made some changes on their team and whether they were better or worse. Of course, just off-season action and talk about that. We should chat about that sometime. Big Alfred Hitchcock, James Bond action and mystery flicks. Yeah, Alfred Hitchcock and James Bond movies are definitely cool. Rob Stewart's sports guy. He's big on baseball. Rob, do you think that the changes they made to speeding it up with the clock, the pitching clock, have helped? I'm not a baseball fan, but it would definitely make me more likely to watch now that I know that it moves more. Mr. Robert Bashirs, good morning, sir. You feel like I'm Rose from Titanic waiting on rate drop. It's been 84 years. Yeah, dude, rates are not dropping significantly. They're going to creep a little bit lower. Let me emphasize that. And that's actually... a rate drop would be great for immediate business, but it would also lead to a lot of problems with, early payoffs and things like that. So I think that for the health of the market, gradual rate decreases would definitely be beneficial. We're also not going to see rates drop huge, because they don't need to. When you look at what's going to happen as the Fed starts to cut rates, the economy is still moving along until we see signs that the economy is not moving, that the labor market is truly struggling. More so than we even know that it is behind the scenes. There's not a reason to see rates move significantly lower. What they call the Fed's neutral rate is probably somewhere in that high 3, low 4 mark. There's been talk that it's down in the 2s, and it really isn't. There's no reason for the Fed to cut rates down into the 2s next year unless we see a big collapse in the economy and that legendary recession that was supposed to hit. There's already talk about how the 10 and 2-year Treasury yields are starting to steepen again instead of the inversion. So we'll see kind of how that goes. But anyway, if I didn't answer your question, I have your answer on these. I have read them. Good morning, Jay Rodriguez over on YouTube. Great to see you here, sir. John Warner, sports, football, and the opposite, golf. Yeah, I'll tell you, golf is fun when you watch the highlights, though. Mike Morano, you're not on the replay. I'm still live, my friend. Good morning, Lisa. Great to see you. You like baseball and football. And yes, I am healing. Thank you, my friend. And let's see. Rob said, don't mind the speed up rules, but hate the extra inning changes. I don't know much about that, so I'll have to look that up. I'm not big on that. But Lee Whitty, huge sports fan, Bengals and the Reds. So you're a Cincinnati guy over there in Ohio, Skibbity Riz. And there you go. So, all right, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and post the lock advice down at the bottom and wrap this call up. Appreciate you again. Just like Cash did, if you got anything that's closing on the near term, don't be afraid to go ahead and lock that up. I say cautiously floating, but the caution there is tight DTIs. You don't want to risk going into that inflation report that's coming out this week. If you don't want to risk that, then look to lock those up. You've got to know if you've got something closing in the next couple of weeks, if the inflation data kind of hurts us, it's going to take a week before we see enough recovery. You'll see that everything will ebb and flow. So, if you like what we've got, we've seen rates, we're at a good spot. It's not a bad time to lock those loans if they're close to closing. Don't be afraid. And then Ron said, it's not an issue of the economy faltering. It already is. It's an issue of media reporting the faltering economy. I agree, Ron, but I also don't think the economy is faltering enough to require drastic action at this point. Skibbity Riz page. And then, let's see. Robert said, agree for the 3 I currently have floating right now. What happened 2 weeks ago? I just need them to get back to where they were 2 to 3 weeks ago. They should be there. Let me show you real quick on that. Let me grab your comment. And before I wrap up here, hold on a second. Let me go to chat. Robert, you definitely, lenders should be showing, you should have things very much in that window of where you were 2 to 3 weeks ago. Using Mortgage News Daily as a reference point, the lowest that we were was like 6.98, 6.97, 6.99, and we're at 7.01. Now, if we get help with the inflation data, that'll push us down. We'll actually be even better than where we were here, but not much, right? I mean, you might see 6.875, right? 6 and 7/8 compared to these are all right there within 7. Same thing when you look at mortgage bonds and we look at where, right now, mortgage-backed securities 100.63. And we look back, when were those better mortgage rates? Well, these were 621, 620, and then also the lower ones here were at 613 and 612. So if we look back at 612, that was right here. And remember, that was right after we got inflation data. So the inflation data helped things improve for a couple of days, then it leveled out. This is what you would need to see again, is that inflation data. This was, remember, when we look at June 12th, that was when that inflation data came out, that reading that we're going to see come out on Thursday. So same thing, if it's favorable, we could see a nice little bump up, but it won't be as severe as what we saw here on the 12th. And then when we get to the 20th, we were right about here. Again, that was right here, the 18th. So they were 100.79. Right here, it was 100.75. And we're at 100.64. So you should be very close to where we were before. Bonds are there. Most rate sheets very close to that. So hopefully yours are. Yeah, you said they're getting close. So, and again, but there's definitely risk floating into the inflation data. It could bite us in the ass. We don't know. Nobody knows. I don't have a crystal ball. Can't tell you. Amy said looking to lock today. And again, it's not a bad thing. If you don't want to float into that, or the consumer, of course, should be given the choice. Don't want to float into that inflation data. Locking now is a good time to lock. So, all right, my friends, I'm up 20 minutes. I've been babbling too long. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate all of you that are here. Do me a favor, spread the word. Help me get other people on there. I don't know what we capped out at today. It shows me 32 eyeballs on this thing right now. I would love to get over 100 people a day watching. I guess I should start promoting it a little bit. So help me promote this. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.